Well, this world is a big place, and the people all gather in buildings and cities where the big rivers flow. But there's a road that leads out into wide open spaces, and it's there that I'm fixin' to go.
I sensed it was my turn. I flipped through all the stories I had written and submitted, but none of them seemed tale-worthy. Then a memory burst. Just last night, lying in bed, the sleeping Emily pillowed against my chest. In the rolling waves of sleep, a voice, my fourth-grade teacher, Mrs. Bloom. Her big bouffant of white hair, her jangly bracelets, we thought she was strange. But the stories she told after lunch were hypnotic. This wasn't one of her stories, though, just her voice interpreting a tale fashioned in the present moment. I have one, I said. All heads turned my way, and the fresh green log cackled in the stove. From school days, the story of the Watchman. Deep breath. The Watchman is a crow. He keeps watch from the highest branches of the guardian trees. He's there right now, keeping an eye on us. But this is a story about something that happened to him when he was very young. Emily giggled out loud. The Watchman, she exclaimed. I continued. Hatched in a nest in the tallest branch of the tallest guardian, the Watchman spent his early days learning crow speak and the ways of crows, which were mostly about eating and telling jokes that could be heard by other crows over great distances. Sometimes there were mock battles about territory or food, but nobody ever got hurt. Life was simple and sweet up on the mountain, with his brothers and sisters and cousins, simple and sweet and slow. But one night came a great storm, beginning with a mighty wind, then lightning and thunder, followed by a deluge of cold rain. The Watchman had been soaring over the canyon when it started, and he tried to fly back to the Guardians, but he lost his bearings, and the wind blew him further and further from home. He flew all night, and in the morning, when the storm passed, he found himself soaring over a very strange landscape. Tall buildings rose like canyons, and everywhere there was commotion. He had never seen a car before, or a truck, or a motorcycle. They terrified him with their noise and their speed. Some other crows perched on a wire cawed at him loudly. "Go away!" they cried. "Go away! You are not our kind." Night fell, and he took shelter in some low bushes. But he was attacked by a pack of wild dogs, snarling and snapping at his feathers. Out of nowhere, a flock of crows swooped down with a great racket, picking and flapping at the dogs until they fled, yelping into the distance. The crows soared back up onto the wires, but one of them called down to the watchman, "Come, follow us." Perched unsteadily on the thin wire, the watchman turned to the crow who had called him and said, "Why did you help me? I am not of your kind." The crow laughed with a cackle. "We are city crows. We are all kinds. You can join us if you'd like." And so the watchman became a city crow. There was much to learn because the city was a very dangerous place. But his teachers were patient. They taught him how to forage the open-air markets for food and how to fly through the narrow alleys to avoid the traffic. Trees were not a good place to sleep because of the treacherous raccoons and the pesky squirrels. But the wires held their own dangers because of the transformers. Never touch a transformer with the other foot on the wire. I lost my place here. They showed him the severed legs of Brother Black Jack hanging upside down, where the neighboring transformer had completely atomized the rest of his body. On Sundays, they took him to the duck pond, where he learned how to heckle the ducks until they retreated into the water, leaving all the good breadcrumbs the people had left behind. But most importantly, he learned the system of warnings, perfected over the years of crowdom, to alert their fellows of impending dangers across the city grid, be they from weather, wild creatures, speeding vehicles, or unruly mobs of humans bent on mayhem. This protection would sometimes extend to the humans themselves, the kind ones who had a heart for crows, the shopkeepers who set out treats or kept a trough of clean water by the door. On more than one occasion, the watchman was able to summon a brigade of brothers and drive off some midnight marauder bent on pilfering a friendly human's domain. This was the part he liked best about being a city crow, belonging to something bigger than himself, where he could have some meaning and do some good. One summer night, tragedy struck. All afternoon, a cluster of fellows had been picking at the entrails of an unfortunate taxi squashed squirrel backwards here. Oh, okay. I can go on, can't I? Okay. Unfortunate taxi squashed squirrel in a back alley. That evening, the watchman's best friend, Cornelius, woke with a start from a dream in which he was being terrorized by a gang of wild, razor-toothed squirrels. Horrified, he left his perch and he flew down to the alley where the remains of the dead squirrel lay. At that moment, a pack of wild dogs rounded the corner, saw him, rushed at him, and tore him apart from beak to tail. There was no chance for any crow to warn him. The next day, the crows held a funeral at the duck pond. And that night, The watchman flew to the perch of the king crow, Wilhelm, on the branch of a towering elm beside the city's Capitol dome. "My heart is broken," he told King Wilhelm. "I was hatched in the nest in the Guardians, high in the mountains, overlooking the sea, and now I long to return. I have learned much from being here, but it's not my home. I am a mountain crow no more. What am I to do?" "My little one," smiled King Wilhelm, "don't you remember what you were told when you came? City crows are all kinds of crows. You can join us if you like, you can leave us if you must. Follow your wings. They will show you the way home." Early in the morning, the watchman left, following his wings always north and north, over the rivers, the farmlands, and the rolling hills, until he came to the high mountains, and he finally spied the cliffside with the little cabin and the towering guardians above. And he lives there to this day, but he is not the same bird he was when he was first hatched, a little crowling, learning crow speak, soaring above the mountains, telling long conversational riddles over great distances with his brothers, sisters, and cousins in a time when life was simple, slow, and sweet. The watchman is a city crow now. He knows the hardships and dangers of the world, and he knows his place among them, always keeping an open eye, always the voice of attention, the first to feel the shift in the wind, the first to smell the scent of fire or hear the approach of an enemy, always in a place of belonging to something bigger than himself, where he can have some meaning and do some good.